Howard Tolman is president of Imagination Pilots Entertainment, and he is listed among the Technology 100, Chicago's most influential technology players. He is also the proud owner of a collection of vintage metal lunchboxes. There is a large domestic and international market in these lunchboxes. Specialty stores like Flashback Collectibles buy and sell both vintage and new lunchboxes to collectors. So Howard Tolman could easily buy or sell more old lunchboxes in any one of these shops. The lunchbox market is similar to financial markets that consist of valuable old and new financial assets which are regularly traded. Financial markets are markets in which assets, usually securities, are traded. Financial markets, like any market, are simple ways of bringing buyers and sellers together. Financial markets exist in a vast global network of individuals and financial institutions that may be lenders, borrowers, or owners of public companies worldwide. Most people think of the stock market when they hear the term, but there are dozens of financial markets, and they can be divided into two groups. Governments that need money for things like highways, education, and welfare borrow in the public financial markets. Corporations, on the other hand, raise funds in the corporate financial markets. Corporate financial markets trade in securities, such as stocks and corporate bonds.
There are two options for any company to raise capital. One is by the sale of equity or ownership interest in the company, and the second is by borrowing money either through a corporate vehicle like a bond or else from a bank.
When a company uses financial markets to raise new funds, primary markets are where securities are sold. Secondary markets are where follow-up trading occurs. Financial markets are not found in a single building, they are borderless, whereas financial exchanges usually are in one building. The financial exchange is where the transactions are settled or cleared.
Markets are generally either exchange-like, where they are federally regulated, and they are primary, where people buy and sell stocks, or they are derivatives, where the effect is to try to discover the price of something. Sometimes these markets are global and over-the-counter and only exist in cyberspace or virtual space, and sometimes they're in concrete, such as the Chicago Board of Trade, or sometimes they have electronic markets, which we do as well. Things seem to be busy because the chairman of the Federal Reserve Board, Alan Greenspan, is addressing the Futures Industry Association meetings in Florida, and he must have had something to say about interest rates, and therefore the activity is picking up.
Suppose Jill, a college student, inherits several $1,000s from her grandmother. She has to decide how to invest this money. She could put it into the bank, buy stock, buy treasury bonds, invest it in a stamp collection, or buy hundreds of vintage lunchboxes.
I think for a novice investor, the choices are pretty simple. A diversified stock portfolio and maybe some treasury bills or treasury notes. The trade-off between the safety and the ease of reversing an investment decision as opposed to a speculative venture, which some of our new college students have had, is that there's a much higher risk. And a very tiny portion might be put in that, but for the novice investor, they probably ought to stick to simply stocks and bonds.
Now let's say Jill decides she wants to invest in Land's End because of a tip she got from her roommate, the business major. Land's End sells stocks to investors on the New York Stock Exchange.
The New York Stock Exchange is a market where shares in companies, both domestic and international, trade. That is, individuals can buy and sell companies, stock, and they will actually change hands and delivery will be made. It is the largest exchange in the world and lists most U.S. companies. The Chicago Board of Trade is a futures exchange. Futures exchanges are typically used to hedge against price risk and to discover the price. Unlike a cash market, where the idea is to change ownership, here people hedge against changes in interest rates, stock prices, and the price of corn. Its primary purpose is to shift price risk from one corporate entity to another, as opposed to make or take delivery of a specific commodity or financial instrument.
Corporations also sell their securities on over-the-counter markets. Unlike organized exchanges, over-the-counter markets are exchanges that have no physical location where trading takes place. Instead, these exchanges comprise networks of dealers all over the country linked electronically. The over-the-counter exchange